Welcome to the Medisun Podcast. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Sarah Kleiner. Sarah is board certified in applied quantum biology, certified nutritionist with over 14 years of experience working with clients, bettering their health in a million different ways. Sarah, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So you have a really interesting journey through health, and I love every time I listen to it. So I would that's where I'd like to start is your journey, and how you kind of ended up in the quantum health world. I know you've journeyed through a million different health fads, diets, and so I really love listening to it. So how's that journey been for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long, windy road is what I really call it, because I always thought the alternative health people were just very annoying and weird. I just didn't understand it. I just thought they were annoying and weird, and I didn't really get it. And then I had my own child basically disappear right in front of me from a flu vaccine. And it was back in 2009. There was a little talk about it. Jenny McCarthy was really talking about it because it happened to her son.
Hmm.
And so that was unfortunately my entry into like getting out of the matrix, I guess you could say. It was not a fun way to exit the matrix, but that's really how it happened because I started noticing all of the lies. I started noticing all of the discrepancies and just kind of how everyone was just going along with the program and never questioning anything. And so when this happened to my own child, and we were working tirelessly, I quit my job to basically stay home with her and try to figure it out and help her. My eyes were opened to a lot of things. And for her, we tried a lot of things. For myself, I became a yoga teacher because I needed something to do during that time. And yoga really helped me quite a bit to like have my own stress relief. And so I thought vegan was the healthiest thing. So thankfully I never did vegan for her.
Hmm.
It was never recommended. We did a lot of different diets, but specific carbohydrate diet where we're doing like mostly meats and like nuts and high omega 3s and omega the good things for the brain. That's what we were trying to do for her. But for me, I tried vegan, lasted about 2 years on that, which is crazy that I lasted that long.
Mm.
And then it started causing trouble. Then I went paleo. I've really just tried so many things. Like we could be here all day talking about all the different alternative health things I've tried. Started carnivore in 2019. That's when I started sharing stuff online because I was a yoga teacher who was also doing the carnivore diet, and people thought that was very interesting.
Mm.
And it was fun to kind of have community online and share things online. And it was working well for me for a little while. Then I decided in 2020 I wanted to get pregnant because we had always wanted to have more kids, but my daughter was so high maintenance and just required so much of our time and attention that we never did. And then I got to the age where it's like, well, you better have a baby. You're over 40, your time is running out. And I thought, I've been carnivore for 2 years. This is the quote unquote healthiest diet, very clean, no processed foods, no seed oils, like very, I've been doing the deal. So this will be
Hmm.
easy. And it wasn't easy. Like I had pregnancy losses. And then I started thinking, all right, well, maybe we should just do IVF because I don't have time. I'm running out of time because I was 42 at that time. And I was like, I'm running out of time. All the doctors are telling me I'm running out of time. We tried IVF, 2 rounds of it, never got any viable embryos. And then it was right about the time I think I was actually doing IVF. I was going through that process when I was given the opportunity to interview Dr. Jack Cruz. And I kind of was using my podcast and using my platform as a way to connect with other doctors and people. And we'd have on camera interviews, but off camera, I would kind of just say, this is where I'm struggling, like
Hmm.
trying to get pregnant, can't get pregnant, trying all these diets, supplements, nothing's working. And so Cruz was just, Cruz. And I've only had one conversation with Cruz ever. I've never really talked to him again after that.
Wow.
Um, I have gone on my own path of studying other people and going down other rabbit holes, but I always have to go back to that was the initial conversation that put me down the path of quantum biology, circadian biology, and leptin. So I do give that credit. But he was very frank with me, said, you need to understand leptin. You need to start going outside in the morning. You need to really get your light dialed in. Well, I'm curious to know what your vitamin D levels are. That's probably low,
Hmm.
just the jack things. And so, like I said, all right, what do I have to lose at this point? I've already spent ridiculous amounts of money and time and energy towards trying to get pregnant. And this stuff sounds really simple. So I did. I started doing those things. And there's more to it. I got into deuterium depletion, changed my diet to be seasonal, no more carnivore, no more keto,
Hmm.
just like seasonal, get my body out of this kind of stressed out state that I didn't really even know I was in. Understanding water, studying Dr. Gerald Pollack. And that was, I think I had the interview with Dr. Cruz. Maybe if you go back on my YouTube channel, I think it came out in September 2021. So I really started doing all that stuff about that time. And then January of 22, I ended up getting pregnant, and my son just turned 3 earlier this month. So that was really how I got into all of this stuff with circadian biology and quantum biology, was through that. And I started implementing those things with my clients pretty much right away, because I
Hmm.
had a slew of women who were doing carnivore, they were doing keto, and they were just like, this is Sarah, this is not working for us, you
Hmm.
know? And so I started right away getting them on sunlight protocols, right away doing this more seasonal nutrition. And I was having women of all ages, and men too, because I had some men as well, have results, regulated cycles. I was having other women getting pregnant. I had women in perimenopause and menopause losing weight and sleeping through the night again, and just all kinds of awesome stories. I keep a bunch of testimonials up on my website and then in my Instagram highlights, because I get new ones pretty much every week. I get more and more testimonials. So this stuff has really worked better than anything I've ever found. And it's something that I feel like is sustainable and easy for everyone to do if they just know the basics of it, really.
Hmm. I'm curious how it was received by your current clients at the time, this switch to a kind of a different view
Well,
after a while of, different diets and things like that.
my clients were cool with it, because they were the people that were with me were struggling. They were like, look, I can't, this diet's really hard for me to stick to.
Hmm.
I've had these sets of improvements. And then some of them didn't want to switch off. I still get tons of women that come to me that are really hell bent on being low carb and keto year round. And that's a whole other conversation,
Hmm.
that I have to kind of ease them off of it. But my clients really, and the people that were in my community, were very receptive, and my community grew big time, like quickly. I was
Hmm.
scared to veer away from carnivore and change my name online was Carnivore Yogi still. I finally changed it because it just wasn't me. It wasn't resonating and wasn't working anymore. And I was scared to do that. But then things really took off, and I really built a better community, and I really built something more sustainable and more helpful for people. So, sure, I had a ton of haters in the carnivore community, and I still
Hmm.
do, which is really funny because it's been years now, but
And it
a lot of
worked
people
too,
got
you
mad
know?
about it. They were mad. And
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, you be mad. I don't really care,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Absolutely. And fertility, it kind of seems like it's such a good marker for good health if you're
Hmm.
fertile.
Hmm.
It's kind of your body's telling you that, yeah, we have enough energy to produce another life form.
Right.
Yeah, and so I mean it's also pretty eye-opening at how infertile the general community is today.
Yeah.
Um,
When I was going through IVF, I was expecting to see women my age and in the waiting room, and that was it. And I was kind of floored that the waiting room was full, first of all. The wait list to get into the fertility clinic was months long,
mm,
but I was able to get in through a cancellation list and get an early appointment. But the waiting list was quite long. And then it was women, mostly what I saw was women in their 20s. And I
wow.
thought, what the hell is going on? Why are there all these women in their 20s in here? It should be, should be women my age that are, more struggling. But no, it wasn't.
And IVF it's kind of an interesting thing too. It's kind of you're you're going against nature to
Mhm.
produce something when your body's not ready to. And
Yeah.
that's why we see such a host of issues with the births of IVF babies.
Yeah. If you go into a doctor's appointment pregnant, they'll ask you, was this an IVF baby? And if so, you're going to be considered high risk, even if you're not over 35, which
Mm,
35, you're already considered high risk and they kind of just like monitor you closer. But if you're under 35, even, and you do have an IVF pregnancy, you're automatically considered high risk because there are a lot of complications that can happen with IVF pregnancies and then babies as well. So,
hmm
yeah, I now going back, if I could go back, I would obviously not do it because it was very expensive. Insurance didn't pay for it and it didn't work.
hmm
And I look at the moral implications of IVF and I have a lot of issues with it as well. It's a very emotionally layered topic,
hmm
but when women go to IVF, they do a pre-screening, right, with blood work and ultrasound and a few things, but they're not catching things like endometriosis and all these other issues, autoimmune conditions that women have that could be preventing the pregnancy, that a lot of those things could be really supported through this basic work.
hmm and leptin is so intricately tied to fertility.
Mhm.
I just wanted you to speak on, the importance of becoming leptin sensitive and how to exactly do that.
Yeah. So leptin, is this hormone discovered in 1994. And of course, going back to Cruz, he was really the first doctor that started tying it to all these other things. But when you look in the literature, they found the hormone in 1994, and then they decided, oh, wow, we're going to figure out a way to manipulate this with a drug or, in some sort of a way, because
hmm
look at all these other systems that it touches: fertility, heart health, bone health. There's even leptin receptors in the gut. Like there's leptin receptors all over the body. And so there's not really a system that it doesn't impact thyroid. Uh, there's cancer implications with leptin, right? And so they really tried to manipulate this hormone and they never were really able to. So they just discarded it. So there's a ton of research showing how intricately connected leptin and fertility are. But like I said, most fertility doctors, when I asked my fertility doctor when we were doing the pre screening, I said, can we check my leptin? She's like, no, it's kind of pointless. Like, why would we do that? And I had to
Wow.
go pay for my own leptin blood draw and get my
Mm.
own leptin tested. And then I found out it was really low, which what does that mean? My brain doesn't understand how much energy I even have. So that's number one. When you have low leptin, that's big time. Your body is stuck kind of more in a sympathetic state. You're in sympathetic dominance, which is also common with keto and carnivore long term
hmm
as well. But yeah, my fertility doctor was like, nah, it doesn't matter. And so that's when I said, all right, well, I have to fix this. And I had to dive into the research more because nutrition for leptin, to raise leptin, carbohydrates raise leptin. You need protein for leptin signaling as a baseline. And then fat, you need the right types of fat because certain types of fat can create issues with leptin resistance, and other types of fat can help with leptin sensitivity and bring down inflammation. And so I really, in my nutrition, was playing around with looking at a lot of this nutritional research around leptin, how to create a protocol template, and then bringing my own leptin back into normal range, which also ended up bringing my testosterone and DHEA into normal range, which they had both been in the floor as
Mm.
well. So it impacted a lot of other systems along the way. And yeah, I mean, it's basically, I call it the accountant. It tells your brain, we have X amount of stored energy on the body. So thyroid, do this, sex hormones, do this, metabolism, do this. It's really giving instructions to the rest of the body. And that energy information download happens at night when you sleep. It's supposed to happen right about the same time melatonin peaks. That's when leptin's supposed to dock to the brain. So that's why I say it's a master circadian signaling hormone that we really need to orchestrate properly in order for all these other systems to have a chance of working their best.
And it makes total sense. That's just everything else is kind of downstream from that.
Mhm.
And it also makes sense why now there's such a huge push for Ozempic. That kind of seems like out of
Yeah.
that research, that's what they landed on as what they were
Yeah.
going to monetize and push. I'm curious on your take on Ozempic, and I mean, you mentioned the thyroid tumors are a big side effect of taking Ozempic.
Mhm.
Yeah, what's your opinion, and how is it a detriment to people taking it today?
The Ozempic and the drugs, the doses are way too high,
Hmm.
way too high. Um, I still think that people need to utilize all these basic things light. They're not doing that. They're just going straight to a drug. And then a lot of them don't change their lifestyle. They don't change their diet. They're just eating less of the crappy foods.
Hmm.
So it's not giving anyone any sort of a long-term solution. Now, on the flip side, I will say, Dr. Tina Moore is a good friend of mine. I've had her on my show before, and she talks a little bit about microdosing, like tirzepatide and some of the GLP-1s, and
Hmm.
how that can actually help with inflammation, and that it can help with people who really struggle, that are 200 pounds overweight and just metabolically wrecked.
Hmm.
It can help them with that signaling while they do the other things. So the standard medical Ozempic, Wegovy, the dosing's way too high. We're not implementing lifestyle. We're not implementing diet as an adjunct therapy to those. So those are my big issues. And then, you know, I'm someone who I'm still going to just work with people on diet and lifestyle regardless, because I'm not a doctor and I
Hmm.
have no interest in prescribing peptides, doing any of that, getting involved in that. I don't even like to recommend supplements
Yeah.
because someone's always going to have a messed up side effect. And then I'm like, now I feel bad for telling you to take that. Um, so I'm going to stay out of it.
Hmm.
But I do think Dr. Tina has put some interesting work out there on the topic, that there are certain people, if they do these other things, there could be some benefit to it. But I'm still really cautious because we're very new into all of this.
Yeah, and it's a very complex system,
Mhm.
as your work shows. This hormone cascade is something that I think women specifically are missing in the modern life. Most women are, wearing sunglasses all the time. They're wearing tons of makeup. They're rarely exposing themselves to the sun, and they have all these crazy hormone markers. I'm curious how the sun can regulate all of this long hormone cascade.
I mean, it's multifaceted. Like I said, the leptin is a master circadian signaling hormone. So it relies on light and it relies on darkness in order to really go through its proper cycle. Same thing with cortisol, same thing with melatonin, because those three master hormones, those are the three main ones I look at. Right? They really do impact progesterone, thyroid, obviously pregnenolone, which is above those,
Hmm.
and DHEA, testosterone, all these other hormones that we kind of hyperfixate on and focus on estrogen. There's a huge correlation with estrogen and melatonin. If you don't have enough melatonin, if you're not sleeping, if you've got artificial light on, all these hormonal cancers are very much linked to artificial light at night because of what that does to estrogen to disrupt melatonin. And so, really, when we look at sunlight, it has to be light and darkness. And it really does start in the morning with getting that light exposure, getting not only just the right amount of lux, because you really can't hack this with the 10,000 lux light box, but
Hmm.
you've got to get the red and the infrared. That's going to precondition your mitochondria so that you have better blood sugar response through the day if you're exposed to a lot of blue light. The amount of blue light in sunrise is also going to reset all those metabolic clocks. That's going to tell your mitochondria as well, hey, daytime is starting. So the sleep pressure starts to build from that first morning light, getting out there and getting that brightness. And then we get UVA light, where those aromatic amino acids in your eyes capture the photons of light and basically take tyrosine, turn it into dopamine, beta endorphin, tryptophan, turn that into serotonin, which becomes that night's melatonin, alpha MSH, leptin signaling. So we've got this powerful appetite regulation happening. and all these cascades really kicking off in the morning through sunlight. And again, you can't hack that through a light box. You really want that balance of blue, red, and infrared and UV
Hmm.
in order to kick those things off. And so most people aren't getting those at all. And it seems too simple if you just say just go outside. And so that's when I have to throw in a little bit of the science for people who are
Mhm.
like, oh, okay, so there is like a whole host of things going on in my body um as a response to morning light, you know?
Yeah, and I'm always shocked at how poor the education is around what the sun is really giving us. And I highly recommend the listener to get the My Circadian app, which is your app, and it's phenomenal. And it labels when UVA rise is occurring, when you can make vitamin D. Because honestly, like when I talk to people they don't really understand what's happening with sunlight
Mhm.
and the timing mechanisms and how important each time of day is. Um, and also Lux, you can measure Lux through the My Circadian app. That's phenomenal. I've loved that feature.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So how do we like someone with low estrogen
Mhm.
um is the first move to get out into UV, I mean not UV, morning light and UVA rise.
Definitely. I mean, that's pretty much my first move for everybody,
Yeah, for
regardless
anything.
of regardless of hormone situation, is to get out there in the morning light, you know. And there is a point where your serum estrogen levels do begin to shift because of the ovaries are not going to continue doing that job as you get into perimenopause and menopause. And so serum estrogen in the blood probably will drop, right? But we also have estrogen in our fat tissues, that we make estrogen in other places. So I'm not somebody who is 100% against HRT for women. I think it can be really helpful. But if you're not getting morning sunlight and you're not getting darkness at night and your nutrition is crap and you're drinking alcohol, don't
Hmm.
talk to me about HRT right now.
Yeah. It makes
You're going to
sense.
set yourself up for a disaster, really.
Yeah, and it kind of builds to the point of even on a like Ozempic or HRT, you have to do all the other things
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
conjunction with taking
Yeah, if
those
someone wants
those.
a microdose of tirzepatide and it helps them with inflammation, great. Use that to get out of that state, but you have to do the things in your life so that you're not going to have to continually be on this peptide indefinitely.
Hmm.
You know, I have seen people do that, to use the peptide for 6 months or so and then do all these things with the lifestyle and then go off of it.
Hmm.
And they're like, I don't need it anymore. And that's the ideal situation if you are going to use the peptides, right?
That makes total sense. And I'm curious how birth control plays into this because I mean it feels like when young girls are going to the doctor, it's like almost if they have acne or if they have weight gain, it's like that's their one size fits all is to put them on birth control. Honestly, no matter how early it is,
Yeah.
what kind of detrimental effects can that have?
I mean, it's suppressing your ovulation, it's suppressing your hormones. They're the type of progestin that's in the birth control is carcinogen. So, I mean, it has long reaching effects. And I guarantee you, a lot of those women in the IVF clinic were on birth control for years and didn't know that it could potentially impact their fertility down the road. And I'm
Hmm.
seeing more and more and more of that in my private community, friends of mine as well, that they're like otherwise very healthy, but they were put on birth control as teenagers and young girls because their parents didn't want them to get pregnant, or they had some sort of PCOS, acne, something like that. And uh, now they can't get pregnant in their 20s
Hmm.
because they've suppressed all these things for so long, blood clots, other sorts of health issues. So it's really not ideal to do that. And you have to go a little bit deeper. You know, I have a teenage girl. And it's complicated, right? A lot of doctors will just say kids like my daughter, severely autistic, non-speaking, behavior issues, put them on birth control because it's the hormones that kind of can make these behaviors 10 times worse, which is
Wow.
true.
Yeah.
It's absolutely true. And I would say all of her little friends, a lot of them are on birth control. Um, for me, it was a no, because I know that I don't want her getting pregnant, but I know the other side effects of that. And so we really had to dial in her diet a lot more. We really had to work hard to bring that inflammation down, because she did have some high testosterone and some other markers for PCOS. And so, yeah, I had to really dial that in for her, and control everything that was going in her mouth, and do a lot of other, little circadian quantum things for her. And she's fine now. She's about to turn 18. We don't have the problems that we did when she was 14, 15, and those were really flaring up. But it's tough when you have kids,
Hmm.
you want to do the easy thing. You take the kid to the doctor, they're having all these problems. The doctor says, give them the pill. Okay, cool. All they got to do is take the pill. Awesome. Changing the nutrition, changing the sleep, looking at these other things, hormone disruptors, makeups, all that stuff. Yeah, like, good luck fighting with a teenage girl.
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it would be tough. So I sympathize and empathize with parents, but I don't think enough of them are given the full picture of what could potentially happen down the road with birth control pills.
And with your daughter, are you, more anal about the food that she's eating and her light environment and things like that?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, definitely.
Hmm.
I mean, and I can control it because she's not a normal teenage girl that I was thinking last night. I'm like, oh my God, when I was her age, I was jumping out the window, rolling my car down the hill,
Hmm.
sneaking out, doing all the things,
Yeah.
My parents didn't know, but it's like, it was also the 90s. It was a different time. We didn't have cell phones, it was a totally different time, I think. But yeah, it's tough for girls. But with my daughter, we do, in the morning we wake up, we go outside, and at night the lights are out. If she has any sort of device, it's on red, and we take it away hour or two before bed. She goes to bed every night pretty much at 8 o'clock. I mean, she's
Mm.
tired at that
Yeah.
point. My 3-year-old is the one giving us trouble right now, but um toddler phases. It's not
Yeah.
because we're not taking him outside or doing circadian stuff. It's because he's 3 and he realizes now he has free will. But
Yeah. That's
yeah,
interesting. That's you have your hands full, that's for sure.
it's like I have 2 toddlers sometimes, honestly. Like
Yeah.
yeah, it's Monday, and I just sometimes Monday morning after getting them both to school, I just kind of sit and stare at the wall like,
Yeah.
the hell just happened?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious about testosterone in women. I feel like this is an area a lot of women neglect. They don't really think about it. They kind of hyper focus on estrogen. How important is it to cultivate healthy testosterone in a, especially like later in a woman's life?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to help with libido, with muscles, um, mental health is huge in mental health, because as you go into perimenopause, you do have a decline in hormones, but testosterone is one hormone that you can, if you have the right lifestyle and your stress is not too high, which is can be really tough to control at that stage of life,
Hmm.
So I never want to make anyone feel bad or give a guilt trip. And that's testosterone is one hormone I've played around with a lot this year that I'm trying to get my own levels up a little bit, um, naturally as best as I can. But that is one hormone that you can raise even if you're in your 60s, right? Progesterone, estrogen, no, you're not really not going to, once your ovaries stop working, you're really not going to be able to boost those naturally.
Hmm.
Some people might disagree with me on that, but that's my opinion and clinical experience. Testosterone, you can, and it is important to have that again for mental health. If you're trying to get pregnant, it's going to impact DHEA, which is really crucial for egg quality. So yeah, it is an important hormone for women. And now our levels definitely will never be as high as a man's. We don't want that,
Hmm.
but we do want to not have it in the floor, which is where I see it with a lot of women.
Definitely. Have you ever played around with cold exposure to
Mhm.
raise testosterone?
Yeah, before I got pregnant, I started doing cold therapy 3 times a week. Well, at first I did it too much and like an idiot.
Hmm.
And it drove my hormones down more because I thought every day, twice a day, because it felt so good.
Hmm.
And then I found a sweet spot, which was like 3 days a week, no longer than 5 minutes. Really, no need to go ridiculously cold, like 45 degrees, plenty.
Hmm.
And I did that. I also, I did take some ashwagandha, which I know some people shouldn't take. It's not good for them, but I was okay with ashwagandha
Hmm.
to cut cortisol down a little bit. Um, what else did I do? I did maca. I took maca as well and got my testosterone. They were undetectable before that. And I did red light therapy as well, because I think red light therapy, there's some evidence to show it can bring testosterone levels up. But my testosterone was completely undetectable, and I got it up to 40 when I tested it that January
Wow.
before I got pregnant. So doing those things.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing. And it can happen pretty quickly for people from what I've heard.
Yeah.
Um, so how much does seasonal eating play into this new, I mean, as people play around with diet, it seems like this is kind of where the final landing place is to eat local, seasonal, high protein diets.
Yeah. I mean, you really have to kind of do your best. And I always assess people where they're at, because I'm going to suggest something different for someone that's been on a long-term carb restricted diet than I will for someone who's been eating standard American high carb. Um, we'll end up at a similar place eventually, but it's always a context of what diet are you doing right now to get you to more of that seasonal approach. Um, and I don't do a ton of fasting with women so much anymore unless they want to, right?
Hmm.
So I personally have to, I do experiments on myself. I run my own labs, and I did a little too much fasting this summer, even though I was eating carbs and my T3 levels went down. They were still normal, in normal range, but lower than I like them to go. And so
Hmm.
I'm like, oh, okay. So you always have to really look at your own biomarkers and get your own feedback. Are you having trouble sleeping? Um, how do you feel? How's your energy? Really looking at your own data and your own feedback is going to be important when you're looking at things like fasting and keto, and how much to really lean into those versus not.
And eating when the sun is up is kind of
Yes,
a good
universal.
metrics. What can eating after the sun goes down, how can that affect these levels?
Well, I mean, there's so many things reasons why you don't want to really eat after sunset. From a circadian lens, your less insulin sensitivity as the day go your insulin sensitivity goes way down as the day goes on. You make less stomach acid, you make less digestive enzymes as the day goes on and into the night, because your body is supposed to be leaning into more repair pathways. So when you're eating after sunset, number one, you can disrupt the gut rhythm. You may not digest and absorb that meal as well because you don't have enough stomach acid or enzymes to do so. Then you also run into the issues with hormones, because it can leave cortisol up, it can leave insulin up. And if those hormones are elevated, then your body is not going to be able to make melatonin. And then leptin and insulin have similar landscape or real estate in the brain. They're really close to one another. So if insulin's up, then leptin can compete with insulin. They'll compete with one another for docking space in the brain. So it can prevent leptin from giving that download of information. It can prevent you from really getting into deep sleep and having melatonin to rise appropriately. Your body temperature will stay elevated. You really want your body temperature to drop at night. That's why you sleep in a cold, dark room. So there's just a lot of issues with eating after sunset too close to bed.
And lipids play a huge part in all of these docking processes. And how important are healthy fats? What are healthy fats that people should be consuming?
Yeah, I mean, the healthy fats are crucial. Uh, I like to stick with animal fats, stay away from the seed oils, because that was, I know there's people out there that are fighting for seed oils these days.
Mhm.
It's really funny. Like, all right, that's cool. I'm still not going to eat them. And I'm not going to recommend that anyone eat them, but that's fine. The research on leptin is pretty clear with seed oils in that the seed oils can actually create leptin resistance, and your seafood, your nice fatty seafoods, your omega 3s, things like lamb, those fats actually bring down inflammation and actually help with leptin signaling to make you more leptin sensitive. So, you really do want to try to stay away from those processed fatty seed oils. Like, yeah, there's a lot of research. And if you look at Kate Shanahan's work, she talks more about this as well. But just from this pure standpoint of leptin sensitivity, the leptin nutrition research is pretty clear in showing that.
Kind of seems like people get caught up because of the omega-6. They're like, people like, if you avoid seed oils, you have low omega-6. And it's
No.
like there's so many different ways, like natural ways to
Yeah,
balance your omega-3 to omega-6 ratio.
exactly. Yeah. Omega 6s are not inherently bad by nature.
Hmm.
It's just that you don't want to have the seed oils, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's just there's a balance. There's an omega 3 to 6 balance
Hmm.
that you really want to maintain in your diet. Most people aren't.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, it seems pretty self-explanatory to avoid processed foods, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Complete terrible signal to your body. It's,
Yeah.
yeah, it's fake food.
Yeah.
Um, And so there's this whole idea of the body being able to heal, not heal itself, but being in the right mind space, regulating your stress, being in a parasympathetic mode. Uh, how important is it to regulate stress just through whatever means, breath work, um, just mindfulness, honestly? How important is that for uh, giving your body the ability to produce all of these hormones correctly and just run efficiently?
I mean, it's very important because if you're in a cortisol dominant state, then it's going to downregulate your hormones completely, right? And if you're not going to have enough melatonin at night, leptin's not going to be able to do its job if your cortisol is still elevated. During the day, if it's too high all day long, again, this is going to downregulate digestion. It's going to cause a whole bunch of issues. But, brain waves and coherence are also really important. And that's sometimes a bit more difficult to measure than taking a blood serum hormone test. There are some people I've studied with that don't even believe in blood testing and they hate any sort of testing. And I'm like, yeah, I can see that. I like to look at everything. I don't
Hmm.
want to shut anything down, but the coherence and brain waves also play a huge role in how well these systems in your body operate, because I think we focus so much on the hormones and I talk about them, but the way that water operates and behaves in the body is so much more impactful than I think anyone really understands. And if you're in this high beta state, the water in your body is kind of like jangled. It's not able to flow and be coherent and have appropriate signaling inside the body. So I think that's one thing, I've had a couple of comments today from people that are like, why is it that some people eat like crap and they expose themselves to blue light and eat seed oils and da 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 da, and they're able to like get pregnant and not have chronic health issues? And my answer is nervous system, which is a broad thing to
Hmm.
say, but it comes down to, when I think about nervous system, I think about coherence and the water in the body and what is the communication to that water that's surrounding 99% of the cells in your body by molecular volume. That's a huge impact on your health. So we have to look at that. You can't just like be hyper focused and stressed and worried and try to do everything right all the time and stay in this certain state and expect your body to heal. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I think that's why your take on it is really, I mean, it's important because you can get hyper fixated on all of these little details and almost stress yourself out so much that even the basics we're talking about don't work
Yeah.
on individuals.
Yeah. I see it all the time.
Hmm.
And then I get the women in my group that they're like, I'm doing everything. I'm doing everything. I'm like, well, maybe you need to do less of everything, like take a step back
Hmm.
because you're like very stressed out. And that's a hard conversation to have. That's where it's really important to try to reprogram, do some sort of brain retraining, mental reprogramming. That was really huge for me. And the whole story of pregnancy and everything with my son was that I also did a lot of visualization. I would just go in the woods, you know,
Hmm.
find a rock and lay on this giant, I call it the James rock. And I would go there and I would just lay on this rock in the sun and no shoes on, just grounded in the sun. And I just imagine that he was there with me and visualize and really kind of like let go of all of the doing and the processes. And it's crazy because I was there this weekend with him and he was sitting on the rock with me, just him and I. And I was just like, wow, this is so cool.
Yeah.
He's here with me. And I wish the me, 4 years ago could see this. I really wish that she could see this because she would just be so like happy.
Yeah. That's
So
amazing.
we forget about that other side that I think can almost trump some of the strategies, in some regards.
Absolutely. I think that's a big thing I've been focusing on is like being optimistic all the time, being positive. I think some people look at these health instruments and they're like they don't look at it as a long-term solution. And that's kind of what modern medicine's done there. It's all short term. I'm trying to fix all these small aspects of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And if you just view it as like, no, this is how I'm going to be living my life from now on, then you really kind of fall in love with the process of all of those, getting on the sun, being
Yes.
grounded. And I think that helps so much to your overall health.
That's the beauty of this work is the simplicity and then what it does to support the nervous system because there are nervous system programs out there and I've endorsed a couple, like a couple of them, but if your body doesn't know if it's day or night, if your body doesn't know if it's summer or winter and it's perpetually confused, then how are you going to regulate your nervous system? And there's so many innate things in nature. The same frequency that the earth is the same frequency of our body getting into alpha, which is this creative state.
Hmm.
Indoors, artificial blue light, all the doing is like high beta, it's just this overactive state that we're naturally in. Going out, sitting on the ground, being in nature is alpha, creativity, relaxation. And there's something very regulating about that where you don't necessarily need to go spend $1,200 on a nervous system program. Like I said, I've done them. I endorse a couple of them. They're great. But if you're not doing this really basic stuff, I don't see the point. I really don't see the point. And I've had so many people heal and love this stuff that they just want to do it forever. I want to do this forever. I'm like trying to figure out my life. How can I be outside more? How can I get my kids outside more? Like that's how I'm always thinking. What can I do to facilitate more of that in my life? Because I enjoy it so much. And I think when people start going down that path and they start doing it, feeling the benefits, it transforms everything in the way they think about health, really.
Absolutely. And it's why it's a bit of a barrier to entry into living like this because it goes against pretty much
Everything.
everything that modern life is.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah. Once you start understanding it, though, I mean, there are things that you can do if you work in an office. There are things you can do if you have to be indoors and you can take breaks and you can get benefits from going outside for 5 minutes here and 5 minutes there. You can.
Mhm.
So I never want anyone to feel that they have to quit their job and move, anything like that. There, you start with the small changes, and then also with the mindset thing as well. My life now is 100% different than it was a few years ago. Like everything is different. I live in a different home. My days are different. The way I live my life is totally different. And a lot of that was started as because of this, and thinking differently and getting out into this new way of living. And it changed everything in a good way.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. So how a lot of people, they have no clue. They think grounding is this wacky thing.
Yeah.
And it's people will go weeks and they won't touch the ground and they wear shoes outside. It's kind of insane. Can I mean, I'm assuming the answer to this is yes, but how does grounding affect hormones and regulation and processes in the body?
Dr. Laura Conover is a great resource for this. I've had her on my show before, but she's actually done studies to show that grounding and touching the earth can actually impact those downstream hormones like progesterone, estrogen, testosterone, because of what it does to cortisol. Because you immediately, when touching the earth, bring cortisol levels down. You discharge non-native EMF. There are actually hormone benefits to grounding and touching the earth. There's benefits to the nervous system to get you. I mean, when I go out and ground, I almost immediately shift into parasympathetic, and I live in a city. I don't live in a perfect place. I
Hmm.
don't live out in the country. I'm trying to get there. I am actively searching daily
Yeah.
for the way out, but the way out of the city. But you still get benefits even in the city on
Hmm.
concrete. And so, you know, there are Dr. Laura Conover is the one that I would say go look at her work, but she's even done weight loss trials
Hmm.
with people and shown one group that was grounding, one group that wasn't grounding, and the group that was grounding actually lost like 15 pounds more than the
Wow.
ones that weren't. Yeah, I was kind of floored by that, but she's done a lot of the research there. So yeah, it might sound woo woo, but there's a whole lot of science to back up the efficacy of grounding for your health. There really is.
Yeah, and it makes perfect sense I mean, if you're controlling your cortisol levels and your stress levels, which grounding definitely does. I mean, even if I just am outside touching the ground, you kind of enter a Zen state without even
Yeah.
trying. It
Yeah.
just happens absolutely naturally.
Yeah. That's why they say go out and touch grass. I mean, it's legit.
Yeah, yeah. It works, I swear.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah. I wanted to touch on autism if you don't mind.
Sure.
Uh, what do you think are like how has your view changed dealing with having an autistic child? What do you think the large drivers of the rise in autism are in our world today?
I think our kids are being poisoned, really.
Hmm.
Um, I know that there's some genetic things where my husband and I have both done, and I know again, I've studied with the people that say genes aren't a thing, they're not real, but there are labels that I use, even having and knowing that information. And we've done some pretty extensive genetic testing. And he and I are both missing multiple detox genes, not just one or two, but multiple detox genes and the same ones, which is odd.
Mm.
Uh, because for the longest time, I'm like, he has a brother, I have two sisters, they all have kids, and they have all not done what I've done at all. They've all kind of been very mainstream. And we're just like, what the heck? We don't get it. But we found out that we are both missing like the same detox genes, multiple. And so our kids naturally are not able to deal with heavy metals as well as perhaps their cousins that have partners that they have kids with that maybe do have those genes and pass them on to the kids. So I think it's multifaceted, but I do think that we're poisoning our children on many levels, starting on the first day of life. And that is one of the reasons, not the only, but one of the reasons why we're seeing a rise in these issues, a rise in kids getting sick. And, I've have one child that's fully vaccinated. Well, not fully. My daughter, we stopped vaccinating when she regressed. So right
Hmm.
around like 15 months is when I was like, no more, like something is wrong. So she hasn't had anything since then. My son's never had a vaccine and he still had eczema as a baby. And I was like, what the hell is, why? I don't understand. And it's because his nervous system is very sensitive. like me. And
Hmm.
then he can't detox very well. So, but by the time my daughter was his age, she had already had 2 sets of tubes in her ears because she was just having ear infections nonstop all the time. My son has had one ear infection his whole life, and we were able to get rid of it without going through like multiple drug cycles or anything like that using homeopathy.
Hmm.
So I do see a difference. My son talks, my son, he talks a lot.
Yeah.
A lot, a lot. I'm like,
Too
oh,
much at night,
it's
late at
not for
night.
me. I'm like, it'll never be too much. But sometimes when I'm like trying to put you to bed
Hmm.
and you're just like, you're not stopping, I'm like, mommy's tired. Mommy needs to go to sleep. But I wouldn't trade it for the world,
Hmm.
honestly. But I've done my own experiment with my own kids who have the same genetics, and the proof is there. It's he doesn't have what she has. So
Yeah. It seems like I mean, I'm concerned moving into the future, with, the new set of mothers that are basically, I mean, because you have these generations of mitochondria from
yes,
the mothers, and it seems like the coming sets of mothers are going to be just those mitochondria have been exposed to such high levels of EMF toxins and whatnot that
yeah,
it's concerning
hormone
for the future, I
disruptors.
think.
Well, I mean, the fertility rate is declining. It's like, are they even going to be able to get pregnant?
Yeah.
That's scary. Is everyone going to have to do IVF or some sort of assist? That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, you know, are natural pregnancies even going to be a thing in 50 years?
Hmm.
Makes you wonder because yeah, it's not just the poisons we're giving babies and children. There's poisons in the air, in our water, in our food. I mean, it's everywhere. And
Hmm.
so yeah, you got to do what you can to control it. And there's a bunch of us that are trying to raise healthier children. And that's all you can do.
I'm curious about the difference in your two pregnancies. Did you uh after you had your daughter, that were you kind of, you know, more controlling over what happened during your pregnancy? Things like ultrasounds.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. And I was high risk, I
Hmm.
gave birth at 43. And so once I hit and I went to a practice that was midwife and OB/GYN. So there are midwives in there and OBs that were more
Hmm.
standard. And I chose that practice because they had a hospital that's an hour away from here. Um, that's more like it's better than most birth centers. And my husband was just like not going to be okay with a home birth. Like I had to, compromise. So they were more laid back about a lot of things. They gave me the option of wearing a CGM instead of doing the glucose test. I opted to do this thing called the fresh test, which is not the glucola drink that LabCorp makes. It actually doesn't have any dyes or artificial flavors or anything in it. So I did that, and I didn't wear CGM. I just did that.
Hmm.
And then they were like, we need to monitor you starting at 35 weeks. I was like, what? They were like weekly ultrasounds starting at 35 weeks. Like, no. I did allow them to go in and wear the heart rate monitor for an hour once a week, but I did
Hmm.
not allow the ultrasounds. I did do an ultrasound like right at the last week of pregnancy, and I did them in the beginning of pregnancy just to confirm and all of that. But they wanted to do them like weekly, and I was
Hmm.
like, no, we're not.
Yeah.
And they wanted to induce me also because of my age. They were like, we don't want you to get to 40 weeks. We want to give you Pitocin. And I was like, absolutely freaking not. Um, but my son decided to come, I think 2 days early. So he was natural, almost was born in the car. Like I said, it was an hour away. We're passing by the big hospital, the baby factory that I was born in. And my husband was like trying to go off the road. I was like, if you fucking pull into that hospital, I'm going to friggin' have to call an Uber to take me to the other one because I'm not going in there because like you lose all medical autonomy in that hospital. They
Hmm.
don't give you any informed consent. It's horrible. And the hospital, the one we went to, I walk in, I give them my birth plan, even though I'm literally about to give birth. I'm like leaning over the counter. I'm like, like crap, this is about to happen. And I gave them my full birth plan. They read it and they were like, done. And I was like, no Hep B, no eye ointment, no vitamin K. He stays on the cord until the cord turns white, like no circumcision, like no, 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 no. He never leaves my sight. I don't want an IV or a Hep lock. They were like, okay. And yeah, they did everything, they did everything. He never left my sight, and it was a beautiful, good experience. But yeah, they definitely still, even though it was a more natural practice, wanted to do more ultrasounds. But they were more willing to just be like, all right, when I said no.
Hmm.
Most practices would, I've had women that they get kicked out of their practice because they say, we want to do all these ultrasounds. And the woman's like, no. And they're like, okay, then find a new doctor. They didn't do that to me. They were like, okay, we're going to just let you know, we're going to recommend this. If you don't want to do it, we're not going to force you into it. But, so they're, yeah.
Yeah, it seems like there's so much fear mongering that goes on in the birth process. I
Yeah.
mean, it's already a stressful process, and then you add on top of they kind of make you think that everything's going to go wrong if you
They
don't
go
do
by
exactly what they say.
statistics,
Yeah.
they go by statistics and the algorithms. And that's how medicine works, is algorithms and statistics. And you go to the emergency room, they're kind of putting all of your symptoms into like a database of algorithms and like, oh, this is what you have.
Hmm.
And so more algorithms, more statistics, this is what you take. That's medicine. And in life and death situations, it's necessary. But yeah, it's
It seems like that's the way it's heading a little bit,
mhm.
even more with AI.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know many people that work in the medical industry, and they're just like, "Oh, it's amazing. You just put everything, you just have AI listen to it, and then you put it in, and it tells you what to do." It's like that is not the art of medicine at all.
No, it's not, because, when I have people that will email me, or they're leaving comments under my Instagram, I have this, this, and this. What do I do? I'm like, I don't know,
Yeah.
because I need to talk to you.
Yeah.
I need to sit across from you and talk to you. I can't just tell you what to do based on that. Like, I could tell you the really wrong thing for you. So we're missing the art of a conversation, because you can pick up on things. When I do an hour-long consultation with someone, I can read between the lines and I can pick up on things that are not typed out in an intake form. It's just
Hmm.
not there. But our medical system is broken, really. And it's, there's no time. It's run by these corrupt ass insurance companies. It's a mess. And so the best thing you could really do is try to stay healthy and stay out of it, honestly.
Absolutely. Take control of your own health.
Yeah.
That's the best thing to do.
Yeah.
And the last thing I wanted to talk to you about was your home environment. What do you do? What are some things in your house um to, mitigate EMFs, lighting, all of it?
Well, before we moved into this house, because we moved in here when I was pregnant with my son, so I already knew about all this stuff. I had hardwiring done. I had an IT person come in, and that's pricey. So I know not everybody can do that,
Hmm.
but I had him run hardwire. So our TV is hardwired. We have ports where you can plug your phone in, computers hardwired. Lighting, I didn't really mess with, because there's so many windows in this
Mm.
house, and we live in Georgia. So the daylight is not horrible. Like, even when time changes next week, it's going to be dark at 5:30. I can deal with that. I've got, red light panels on the floor and incandescent lamps and things like that we utilize around the house, rather than going through. And some people get really crazy about this stuff and
Hmm.
stressed. They're like, I need to redo my whole lighting system. I'm like, how about you just don't turn on the lights and
Yeah.
just get lamps,
Yeah.
or, like, keep it simple.
Like one
Uh,
bright lamp will light up like an entire room, honestly.
I have
That
a little baby EMR tech that I keep in my kitchen on infrared only. I have purple bug zapper lamps that are UV lamps.
mm,
They're kind of fun, because those are below that blue light spectrum that turns on the rhythm. So I've got these purple like bug zapper lamps, which are fun in the summer, because you'll just be relaxing on the couch and you'll hear flies dying. It scares the crap out of you when you're
Serves
just
a
chilling on the
double
couch. You're like,
purpose.
the hell was that? Yeah, it's important because we leave the doors open a lot or windows
Hmm.
open, so we'll get bugs. So the zappers kill them at night. Um, we have a screened-in porch because I am looking for houses up in the mountains right now because I really do want to get out of the city. And every house I look at has to have a screened-in porch because we
Hmm.
use the hell out of that screened-in porch. I mean, we eat breakfast out there. We have toys out there. We play out there. If my daughter wants to be on her iPad with the phone screen red and all that good stuff, like she's on the patio. And we use that year round. So really simple stuff.
Hmm.
Um, I do have water, pretty extensive water stuff. That could be a whole episode of all my water stuff, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I was blessed. I mean, at the time, I didn't feel blessed because I grew up in New Hampshire and there's no AC up
Oh,
there pretty much.
oh,
Like in the summer, and it gets
yeah,
freaking hot, you know.
yeah,
But our windows, I just remember our windows were always wide open.
yeah.
We had a big screened-in porch,
Mm,
and I was just like, now I'm like, oh, thank God, you know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Those are the best. Honestly, you gotta have a screened-in porch.
Absolutely. Well, Sarah, thank you so much. I don't want to take too much of your time. I really appreciate the chat. I had an absolute blast.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Great. Thank you.